Mama, you're exhausted. But what if the version of you that you miss isn't gone forever? Have you been looking in the mirror lately and wondering where the old you disappeared to? Are you counting down the days, hoping that somehow you'll wake up feeling lighter, happier, and more like yourself again? And what if this difficult season isn't the end of your story, but the beginning of learning how to care for yourself in an entirely new way? In this episode, we're talking about the postpartum blues, that emotional roller coaster that can leave you feeling tearful, overwhelmed, disconnected, and unlike yourself in the days and weeks after having a baby. And while postpartum blues are incredibly common, they can still feel incredibly lonely when you're living them. Today, I'm sharing 5 practical steps you can begin implementing this week to help support your mind, body, and emotional well-being as you navigate this challenging season. Do you want practical steps to rein in the overwhelm and start feeling like yourself again, but struggle with feeling hopeless, unsupported, and misunderstood? If so, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Stephanie, wife, mom of 4, and a 2-time acute postpartum depression survivor. I learned the secrets of how to overcome the feeling of drowning and fully thrive as a new mom through life-giving hope and support. If you're ready for validation, encouragement, and those easy practical tips, then take a deep breath in, exhale, and we'll take the first steps together. Here we go. Did you know that I have a free community of mamas just like you? New moms who are struggling to survive, much less thrive, and are looking for hope, encouragement, and validation. We share life together. There's a short weekly devotion, encouraging quotes, and so much more. There are even chances to win free coffee and prizes. Come join us at bit.ly/PPD support group. A few days after bringing my first daughter back from the hospital, I remember standing in our tiny kitchen in Asia, completely overwhelmed by emotions that seemed to come out of nowhere. Nothing particularly bad had happened that day. My husband had made breakfast, the baby was sleeping, the sun was shining outside our apartment window, and yet I suddenly found myself crying over something as insignificant as a sink full of dishes. I remember feeling embarrassed by how emotional I had become. One minute, I was staring at my daughter Hadley, overcome with love and gratitude. The next minute, I was convinced that I had made a terrible mistake and that I was completely unqualified to be a human being's mother. I felt guilty for not enjoying every moment. I felt guilty for missing my old life. I felt guilty for feeling sad when I had so much to be thankful for, as people often like to remind me. And perhaps hardest of all, I felt guilty because everyone around me seemed to think that becoming a mom was supposed to be absolutely magical. Nobody had prepared me for how disorienting it could be. Nobody had explained that even good changes can bring grief, that even wanted babies bring enormous life adjustments, that hormones, sleep deprivation, physical recovery, and the complete upheaval of your daily life can leave you feeling like a stranger in your own body. I kept waiting to magically feel like myself again. But the truth is, motherhood does change us. Not always in bad ways, not always in permanent ways, but it does change us. And healing often begins not when we try to become the person we used to be, but when we learn how to care for the person we are today. If the postpartum blues have been weighing you down, I want you to know something important. Feeling emotional, overwhelmed, or unlike yourself does not mean you're failing at motherhood. Your body has just gone through one of the biggest physical, hormonal, and emotional transitions imaginable. Today, I want to share 5 practical steps you can begin implementing this week, not to become a perfect mom, but to help yourself feel a little more grounded, supported, and like yourself again. Number 1, stop expecting yourself to bounce back overnight. One of the most damaging expectations many new moms carry is the belief that they should be back to normal within days or weeks of giving birth. But think about everything your body and mind have just experienced. You carried a baby for months. You gave birth. Your hormones shifted dramatically. Your sleep changed overnight. Your relationships changed. Your routines practically disappeared. And yet so many women expect themselves to recover from all of that almost immediately. Maybe you've caught yourself thinking, why am I still crying? Or why didn't I have this figured out by now? Other moms seem to be doing so much better than I am. But healing isn't something you earn by pushing harder. Recovery takes time. This week, give yourself permission to lower the bar. Order takeout, let the laundry wait, say no to unnecessary obligations. Stop comparing your beginning to someone else's middle. Instead of asking, why am I not back to normal? Try asking, what would it look like to be gentle with myself today? Because grace often creates more healing than pressure ever could. Number 2, build one tiny routine that belongs to only you. When you become a mom, it can feel like every minute of your day belongs to someone else. You're feeding someone, holding someone, cleaning up after someone, thinking about someone else's needs before your own. Over time, it's easy to lose sight of who you are outside of motherhood. Maybe your entire day revolves around nap schedules or diaper changes, and by bedtime, you realize you haven't done a single thing that made you feel human. You haven't read, you haven't gone outside, you haven't listened to music, you haven't done anything simply because you enjoy it. So choose one small ritual this week that belongs entirely to you. Not because it's going to solve everything, but because it reminds you that you still matter. Maybe that looks like drinking your coffee outside each morning, reading one chapter of a book before bed, taking a 10-minute walk, listening to your favorite podcast while folding laundry, or spending 5 quiet minutes in prayer. The routine doesn't need to be impressive at all. It just needs to remind you that you are still a person with needs, interests, and dreams. Number 3, pay attention to what your body has been trying to tell you. The postpartum blues are emotional, but they're also physical. Lack of sleep, hormone shifts, poor nutrition, dehydration, physical recovery. All of these things affect how you feel mentally. Sometimes we assume we need a complete life overhaul when our bodies are simply begging for basic care. In my case, it was typically water. Maybe you've been surviving on coffee and granola bars. Maybe you haven't had a full glass of water all day. Maybe you can't remember the last time you stepped outside. None of those things make you a bad mom. They make you human, and a human who has been taking care of everyone else. So this week, choose 2 physical needs to prioritize every day. Not 10, mama, just 2. Maybe drink a glass of water before your first cup of coffee. Eat protein with breakfast, or step outside for 15 minutes. Or go to bed when the baby sleeps instead of folding one more load of laundry. I did throw that in there on purpose, but sometimes sleeping when the baby sleeps isn't the best advice, and it's definitely not the most helpful. Small physical choices may not feel like life-changing in the moment, but over time, they create a stronger foundation for emotional healing. Number 4, stop measuring your worth by your productivity. Oh, mama, I'm preaching to the choir on this one. It's just hard for me. But it's so important. Motherhood has a sneaky way of turning everything into a performance review. You start measuring yourself by how clean the house is, how many things you checked off your list, or whether dinner was homemade. And on the days when you accomplish very little, you start believing that you are very little. But your worth has never depended on your productivity. So maybe today you barely got dressed. The dishes are piled high, maybe your baby cried for hours, and you feel like you accomplished absolutely nothing. But let's tell the truth. You comforted a tiny human. You showed up. You kept going. You loved your child in 1,000 invisible ways that nobody else saw, and that counts. Yesterday, when I put Koa in his pack and play because he had literally been screaming for 6 hours, and Brinley and Tucker and I had no idea how to help him. We had tried everything. I left him there for 5 minutes screaming his head off. I called Adam, bawling my eyes out, because here's my baby, just 15 months old, barely. And I've known him for 15 months and I couldn't even help him, and I felt like a complete failure. But I showed up, I kept going, and I loved him in 1,000 invisible ways. So at the end of each day this week, write down 3 things you did that had nothing to do with chores or productivity. For example, this was me this week. I helped my baby when he needed comfort. I asked for help, and I made it through a very difficult day. The goal is to train your brain to see value in things that don't fit neatly onto a to-do list. And then lastly, know the difference between postpartum blues and postpartum depression. The postpartum blues are incredibly common and often improve within the first couple of weeks after birth. But sometimes what starts as sadness, irritability, or overwhelm becomes something much heavier. And knowing the difference does matter. If your symptoms are intensifying instead of improving, if you feel persistently hopeless, if anxiety is taking over your thoughts, if you're struggling to function or connect, if you're having scary thoughts that won't leave, it is so important to tell someone. One of the reasons my own postpartum depression became so severe was because I kept assuming that what I was experiencing was normal and that it would eventually pass on its own. I didn't realize how much I was struggling with until I was already deep in survival mode. So please take an honest inventory this week. Ask yourself, am I slowly improving or am I becoming more overwhelmed? Am I simply emotional or am I feeling hopeless? Do I need more support than I currently have? And if something feels off, trust yourself enough to reach out. Talking to your doctor, your partner, a trusted friend, a counselor, or a support group is not overreacting. It's taking care of yourself. So let's recap. Healing after having a baby takes time. It's important to build one small routine that belongs just to you. Support your physical body, not just your emotions. Your worth is not tied to your productivity, Stephanie. Yes, I said that one to myself. Let me say it again. Your worth is not tied to your productivity, mama. And pay attention to whether your symptoms are improving or getting heavier. Because even though this season feels overwhelming, you do not have to navigate it alone. If the postpartum blues have left you feeling unlike yourself, I want you to hear this. You are not weak. You are not broken. And you are certainly not failing. You are adjusting to one of the biggest transitions a human being can experience. And while it may feel like everyone else has figured this out, so many moms are quietly asking the exact same questions you are. Will I ever feel normal again? Will life always feel this hard? And will I ever feel like myself? Mama, the answer is a resounding yes. Not overnight, not all at once, but little by little, day by day, with support and grace, you will begin to find your footing again. There is hope, and I am living proof of that. Mama, don't forget to come join us in our private Facebook group at bit.ly/PPD support group. If this episode is triggering for you and you feel you need additional help to process your thoughts or feelings, please call or text the Postpartum Support International Hotline at 1-800-944-4773 or visit them online at postpartum.net.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of my mom's show.
If so, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a mom friend who may be struggling to feel like herself and is in need of some encouragement today?
Also, please leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. It blesses my mom's heart to know this podcast is helping you.
Okay, time to go change a diaper and do the school run. I'll meet you back in a few days for another episode.
Take care.